Hi, I want to speak a little bit about my final project that I'm planning for the course. I want to make a online unit in statistics for the first unit, which is all about introduction to data and data collection. I want to do this unit because come fall time, we might be online learning. So if we are, I want this up and ready for that. Um, so There we go. So we're looking at statistics, introduction to data as the unit that I'm looking at here, an online learning experience. As I said, I want to do this because come fall time, I want to be ready if we are going to be online. Plus, I think this would be a good unit to help kick it off. So the kind of the three big things we touch upon or that we're looking at here. Community, how do you build it? Assessing, and curriculum. So those are kind of the three key things I'll be looking at in this. We'll start with community. So community is the students in your class, how you interact with them, plus also how do you bring in outside sources. So parents, other teachers, experts in the field, that sort of thing. So the beginning of the year, I think one of the key ways I want to try building community is through FlipGrid. It's a program I used a little bit this year where students can record a short video message and then respond to each other. So I just would have them introduce themselves, talk a little bit about why they're taking this course, and then also give an interesting statistic about themselves. So this will give them a chance to start using some statistical language as well as learn about the other students in the class. I think this will be a great way to do it for our students because they all have Chromebooks, so they all have the video recording capabilities. Many of them have smartphones, so I think this will be a good way to get them all engaged at the beginning. I also do plan on using Google Classrooms as kind of a holding place for the material. It's easy to organize the materials there. You can have them by units. You can post different announcements on Google Classroom. Students can respond to each other in the main area. You can provide both feedback and grades through Google Classroom, which I'll touch upon the difference between those two as we move forward. You can have students submit their work through it and then immediately give both the feedback and grades. So here you can see I've given a little bit of feedback to this student, explaining some of the different things they could try. And I think Google Classroom will be a good fit for them. Many of them are already using it this year, and many other teachers in the school also use it. So it would be a commonly used platform, which is always useful because then students aren't going back and forth between many different platforms. So then we talk a little bit about assessing. How do I plan to assess these students? At the beginning, I do want to give a pre-assessment. Right after, basically after the introduction, the next thing I plan is this pre-assessment, just to determine what students already know about data and data collection. I know statistics is one of those topics that gets very different, wildly different touches upon in the math world. Some students will see a lot more of it than others. Some of them just know the basics, mean, median, and mode, whereas others get a lot more. So I want to figure out where are my students, which students have been introduced to statistics more than others, and then work from there. And then also have students give real-world examples of data and data collection. You can find a lot of this through newspapers. You can find it in articles online, especially right now with the COVID-19 going on. Students have a lot of access to a lot of data, and just how do you use this data. The post-assessment / the project. I want students to collect data. I want them to collect their own data. So therefore, they'll see some of the trouble that arises when you collect data, some of the things you have to look out for, the different biases. I will have them do a Google Doc report. As they work on their reports, they will have groups that they'll work within, and those groups will be mainly to give each other peer feedback. I also plan on using KhanAcademy throughout this unit. KhanAcademy has some great links to videos. I plan to make my own videos as well through YouTube, but I do want students to have another resource that they can look upon and use. So I think KhanAcademy is a great one. They've done a lot of work. There's a bunch of problem sets I can assign through KhanAcademy as well to make sure that students have the basics. I think that's one of the really key things KhanAcademy can be used for, is to check, do they understand how to find a mean? Do they understand how to find the mode? That sort of thing. I don't like to use KhanAcademy for larger concepts because I don't think it does as good of a job. They don't have the open-endedness that I like to see in a lot of different problems. But it does provide that immediate feedback, which I think is great for building foundational skills. Kind of the two major feedback things we looked at this week, Wiggins and the RISE model. Neither of these are very surprising to me. When I give feedback in math, these are the things I usually go for. I try to make sure that my comments that I give students help them build up their skills. I like them to be actionable things, so you could try this thing, you could try that. I try to make sure they're user-friendly, so I'm not using words and vocabulary that we haven't discussed in class. I'm very big on making sure that it's timely, so I like to give them the feedback as soon as I can, and I like to make sure it's ongoing, so I'm giving lots of feedback, lots of opportunities for students to improve. Again, the RISE model, I think each of those steps in the RISE model are very important. It's kind of like all these things when you see the pyramid. Most people think, oh, you always want to be at the top. I don't think that. I think there are times when you do want that reflection. There's times when you do want to inquire with your feedback, suggest new things, and elevate. So I think there are places where each of those steps are important. And it's not always that you always want to be elevating. Just like with, you don't always want to be at the creating stage. And now the name is eluding me, but you don't always want to be in the creative stage. Sometimes you want that understanding. Sometimes you want to be at the remembering stage, depending on what your work is. Finally, one of the big difference here, of course, between feedback and grades, your feedback is ongoing. It's designed for growth. Through your feedback, students should be able to look back at their work, resubmit it, make tweaks to it, change it, and it should be a learning process. Whereas grades are more final. They're really designed to rate the student and say, this is the percentage you know out of everything that we ran over. So a huge difference there between our feedback and grades. Big difference as to how they should be used. Feedback should be throughout the course of the class. You should always be given feedback. You should be given feedback continuously throughout class. Not always doesn't need to be handwritten. A lot of times feedback can be that verbal during class, or as grades. Those are the big things that go in the grade book, right? Those are the things that at the end of the day say, does the student know it or not? Whereas the feedback should be constantly all the way through the class. Grades at the end of class, the end of the entire class. So the curriculum. For statistics, I like to use Open Intro Statistics. It's on volume 4 right now. It's a free online accessible statistics book, which is one of the big reasons I like to use it, because A, it is free, and because it is online. So students can access it anywhere. It has lots of great problem sets in it, so students have the access to those problems. Like most math texts, the odd numbers are answered at the back of the book, so that's something to keep in mind if you plan on taking problems from it for your different formative assessments. Keep in mind that students can look at the back. But again, it's a really good book for statistics, it has a good flow, I've always found. One of the things I really like about it is the problems that they use and the examples they use actually are based on real world statistics. So they don't make up a bunch of different numbers and then say, oh, find the mean now. They actually have values from real world examples. So I really like that. And they link to all of those examples. They link to where the data comes from, which is a really big thing, I think, in statistics. One of the big things I was looking at for this week was dyscalculia. It's something that I've worked with a bunch. Being a high school math teacher, I mean, I see it at least one student per year. It's a difficulty in learning math. They have trouble remembering facts. And it's not due to laziness or lack of intelligence. And they just have a difficulty working, a lot of them have difficulty working with money, which is actually the example I was trying this week was the coin tray. And you get really frustrated trying to figure out the exact change. For some of them it was easy, like here, if you look up top, you can see, oh yeah, the penny is 7 cents, I need 7 cents, so you click on it. But then when you get up to like 34, or I guess not 34, but like if you're looking at like, how do I make 41 cents? And you're like, well, and you'd be looking all over trying to figure it out because it's not as easy as it should be, or as easy as it always has been for you. So that's one of the examples I looked at. Definitely interesting look at how students struggle with math. I also looked at the dyslexia one where you had to try to read the paragraph. And again, you could read it, but you had to go a lot slower than normal. So one of the big ways that we like to differentiate, we have split levels at Ellsworth. We have an honors and a non-honors, and statistics is an interesting class because typically the honors and non-honors are taking the same exact course. They're both in the same class together. So within the class, I have to differentiate based off that, who's in honors, who's in non-honors. So a lot of that comes down to when I give summative assessments, I expect more from the honors group. I expect more in their answers. I expect their work to be more fleshed out. But we have different abilities both within the honors and non-honors and between them, and each student has a different ability, and that's something I always try to look at. I try to meet the student where they are and then help them move forward. We have a great program called Focused Learning at Ellsworth High School, where I can actually meet with students in small groups to look at helping them improve. We meet every day for focused learning, and I can tag whichever students I want to work with that day. So if we are back in class, I have that opportunity. If we're not, then I can set up times during the week where I can meet extra with students that I know need it. So definitely added time and resources is a great way to help differentiate, help scaffold the students towards where they need to be. So overall, my big plan for this project will be on data and data collection. I'll have a lot of different videos I'll upload online. There'll be a lot of time for students to work in small groups. And overall, I hope to have this unit ready so that come fall, if we are still online or if we are split online and at school, I'll have the ability to have that ready to go. I look forward to everybody's feedback and have a good one.